Welcome everybody to another edition of Mind-Boggling Concepts in the Torah. As per usual, please look down any sharp objects and don't get too close to the camera. You don't want to spread any of those contagious diseases. So we are battling, rampaging through, what's a better word than that? Barreling through the Torah. Went to chapter 2, verse 8 after 6 years. No, it's not that long, I'm joking. It feels like that maybe. So I don't know if that's a good plug either. But we're going to do a little bit on the Parsha before we move. We go there. Parsha's Bo. Parsha's Bo is the Parsha of education. Rashi points out that in the second verse, it's how to talk to your children. This is where it's the Haggada is all based on. Is this week's Parsha, and it gives us 4 expressions or 4 ideas on how to talk to our children. As everybody knows, children, as Eddie Cantor said, before I had children, I had 6 theories of how to raise children. And after I had 6 children, I have none. So everybody knows how to raise children until they have them. So our children are the hardest subjects to talk to. So here in the Parsha, it gives us 4. I should really start with this Parsha has my favorite mitzvah in it. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite mitzvah?
I think Hanukkah has become a favorite for me.
Okay, good. I like that.
What about you?
Me, it's saying Yehi Ratzon, Yehi Esek Zeli Irfua.
Oh, okay, that's very nice too. Very good.
Oh, I really enjoy singing Adon Olam, Ana B'Koach, and Lan Matzeh Bin Ginot. Number 67.
Beautiful. Okay, well, I'm gonna be a party pooper here, and throw out something that I'm sure not a lot of people who are watching this video are going to have the same degree of excitement that I do, because my favorite mitzvah is the breaking of the neck of a donkey, breaking a donkey's neck. I love that mitzvah.
Oh my goodness. The only reason one would do that is if you can't give it to a Kohen, and so you have to kill it. And how does it go? You're supposed to Pater Chamor, something Pater Chamor. We were memorizing the list.
Right. So this is Parsha, redeeming. So you have to give the firstborn up to the Almighty. Right? That's this week's Parsha, Bechor, because it's Makkos Bechoros, the last 3 plagues. So you have to give up your donkey. So you have to give up your firstborn, whether it's your children, right? So your children, you redeem them, although we haven't got to that bit yet. And with your animals, you can redeem them, or you give them to the. So if you have a cow, the first calf of that cow goes to the Cohen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Torah says you also have to do it with a donkey. Now, Chazal, just about everybody who reads it is in utter astonishment. What on earth is a donkey doing there? And Rashi makes a point that it's only a donkey, no other trait animal. Do you have to do this with?
So why specifically a donkey? Because the donkey is very prevalent, like when we're talking about Abraham saddling the donkey and Bilam saddling his she donkey.
Right.
So like why specifically the donkey? Why is the chamor so like prevalent everywhere throughout? And now you're talking about redeeming it.
Right. So when you have a donkey, the firstborn donkey, so you can't give it to the Cohen. The Cohen doesn't want it. I should imagine. He's got a Tesla. He doesn't need a donkey. Right? So you can't give it to the Kohen. So what do you have to do? You have to redeem it. You give the donkey a sheep instead of a donkey because he wants sheep, right? It's a joke.
I thought the Kohen does want a sheep.
What's that?
I thought the Kohen would prefer a sheep to the donkey.
Exactly. Well, in today's world, I'm not so sure anymore.
Okay.
You know, but 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, yeah, sheep were a delicacy and an important part of their diet. But today, you know, health food and vegetarians and things like that. But anyway, I'm digressing tremendously. But he much prefer a sheep than a donkey. There's not much you can do with a donkey. Once he's got one donkey, it's like once you've got one Bentley, you don't need another Bentley. So once he's got one donkey as a means of transportation, so once he's got one, what does he need another one for? So he doesn't want the donkey. You can't give him the donkey. You have to redeem the donkey. You have to give him a sheep. And if you don't give him a sheep, then you have to break the neck of the donkey. That's the mitzvah, to break the neck of the donkey. Right?
Effectively killing it is basically
obviously, right, for sure. Right, it's very hard to be, even a donkey and a donkey is a very strong animal. I should imagine there's no simple thing to break its neck. I don't know how they did it. I mean, the Torah describes it, but sounds to me like, well, I guess if you've got a big tough guy, you could do it. But however you do it, right? Now you don't shack the donkey, which would be a problem because there's no Torah, there's no tradition of how you would shack a trait animal, right? You're only killing it for the purpose that you can't eat it. You can't do anything. You don't have to keep it. Because you didn't redeem it, you can't keep it. You know, maybe you don't really want the donkey. So, you know, so here you've got to buy a sheep. So Chazal comes up with various reasons that really don't cut it. And I'll tell you why they don't cut it. Not to demean Chazal, but they're making a point that it doesn't cut it. Because the reasons they give are only I don't know, English isn't my first language, but the reasons they give don't really kind of don't fulfill the necessity for the mitzvah. So a donkey, because the Egyptians are compared to donkeys, or because the donkey, another reason they give is because the Jews used donkeys to carry all their silver and gold out of Egypt and the clothing out of Egypt. Right? Everyone had a donkey or a number of donkeys, so in remembrance of that. But at the best, it's a remembrance. Right? It's not a. In other words, if we had never gone down to Egypt, let's suppose when God said to Abraham, "Your strangers will be strangers, your children will be strangers in a strange land," right? They didn't know which country it was going to be. So seemingly it could have been another country, or God would have specified which country. But so if it had been another country, it would be a different animal. But so it's not implicit that the donkey, it's just a remembrance that the donkey, that why they picked the donkey. But why do you have to pick any animal? What is the necessity of redeeming a trait animal? Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
But maybe we're looking at this from like a very whatever perspective. Maybe we need to look at it from like a Nesivas Shalom perspective, because the donkey chamor represents chumor. What does it mean? Like physicality.
Right.
So maybe that's really what it's saying, is that you need to like sacrifice that initial desire for physicality to Hashem, and the donkey's just basically representing that, right? I mean, is that also part of the reason why Abraham had the chamor, like, you know, and he saddled it before he took Yitzchak to whatever, and the same thing with Bilam, except with Bilam,
and the Mashiach as well.
Oh yes, that he's going to be on a donkey.
Going to be on a donkey. Like, get your donkey ready.
Oh, wait a minute. I always thought that the reason he's on a donkey is because it's slow. But now that we're talking about this,
No,
oh my
no, it's
goodness, Rabbi, wow. Then that means that what it's saying is that the Mashiach himself is going to be
That's
is
exactly
going to
right.
be steeped in physicality too. So he
Right.
could just be any guy.
Right. No. The Midrash says the donkey that the Abraham rode on, it says the donkey, Hachamor.
What do you mean,
Right.
the donkey? Is that the donkey that first was created in the beginning of the creation,
Right.
one of the 10
That's
things?
right. That's right. So it's the donkey that the Mashiach is going to be riding on. So the Maharal explains it just like you're saying. But it's just like Abraham was in control of the physical, so the Mashiach will be in control of the physical.
You know, I never thought of this before, but when you think about Abraham, like he was totally the gastronome, right? Like, I mean, really tongue, that's like a delicacy, isn't it? And then like all the other stuff that he was like, with milk. I mean, it sounds like that was a very interesting meal. Like he's definitely the gastronome there, no? And then that's how he got everybody, right? Through the food, through chamor, through the physicality. He got everybody to recognize God that way, through that process. I'm so excited by this idea, Rabbi.
Very good. Right. So if you read, that doesn't work here.
So
Because you
disappointed.
don't necessarily kill the donkey. If you kill every donkey, if it kill every donkey, then you could make it fit. And the Chazal don't use that. That would be an easy go-to answer. And they don't use that one.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's because it's the firstborn donkey, right? That's your first initial desire for something physical, like for something physical. So like, let's say I suddenly developed an interest in jewelry, which I'm starting to develop an interest in jewelry. So
Good.
like that first initial interest, right? If I take that and I buy something for Shabbat or a holiday, then that's elevating it, right? And giving it to Hashem.
Right. Exactly.
Versus buying it for myself, everyday usage.
Right. That would be good if you had to, if you gave it to the Kohen, but you don't give it to the Kohen.
I'm not giving my earrings to the Kohen. What are you talking about?
The Jewish women did.
Oh, did they? When did they do that?
No, you're the other way around. The Jewish women would not give it, right? They would
Exactly,
not.
Rabbi. We don't do that kind of thing.
That's right. Very good. So you don't give up the donkey. You give a sheep instead of the donkey. It's all. You're right in everything, but what is the donkey doing here? Because the donkey is telling you how to talk even in the most difficult situations. In other words, the Parsha this week gives 4 different ideas on how to relate to your children. But this one is the ultimate, and it's represented in the Haggada. And the donkey is key to getting through to your children, and that's why it's my favorite mitzvah. So let me read it to you. It's in chapter. If you want to look it up, it's in chapter 13, verse 12. The kol petach chamor tifteh, and all the first issue of the chamor you should redeem, right? The seh with the sheep. But if you do not redeem it, you should break its neck.
With an axe.
Right?
It says you shall axe the back of its neck.
Right, but every firstborn of a person, of your children, you should redeem. So here you do have it. You should redeem it. Or you should redeem your children. It's a whole nother. That's where you get pity and the ben. But pity and the ben is much more. It's more complicated because it's the Cohen. Okay, we're not going to go down that. That would digress tremendously. Right, but anyway, let's get back to the donkey. So, right, so you're supposed to redeem the donkey, right? And the next passage says, "V'haya kishocha," and it shall be when your children ask you tomorrow. They're more saying, "Ma sota, what is this? Right, what is this?" Right? So the Torah then says, "Okay, let me tell you what it is." V'amatalav, you should say to him, but Chazek, yeah, and Rashi comes along and says, which child of the 4 children is this talking about? The hardest child to get into, the hardest child to, well, I shouldn't say that. It is a harder one. No, the hardest of the 4 children.
Well, it can't be the one that can't ask because he already is asking a question. What is this? So it has to be the one who's asking but doesn't know.
Right, there's the Sadik, the Rasha,
And Benoni, wait, no Benoni.
right, the Tam and the She'en Shol doesn't know how
The
to
Tam.
ask.
Then it's the Tam.
Right, it's the Tam. Right, this is the Tam. Right, that's the hardest child to get through to. Well, I should take that back. She'en Shol. It's really well, it's not She'en Shol. Rashi seems to say that it could be this is the She'en Shol and the Tam. Could be.
Why can't this be all of them?
What's that?
Why can't it be all of them? Because it starts with a question. What is this?
It could. It's
And by the way, it shall be when your son will ask you at some future time.
It's not the Rasha.
No? Okay.
And the Hakum is actually involved. So it's either the I'll take it back. It's for further thoughts. But it's not the easiest children to get through to are the Hakum and the Rasha. Those are the 2 easiest ones. So we're left with the 2 most difficult. The Talmud and the Deishah. They want to just know how to ask. So it says that when your child asks, right, you say to him, right, you just broke the donkey's neck. In other words, you go out to your backyard and you take your newborn donkey, right? Everybody's excited, a baby donkey, it looks kind of cute. You thought, oh, my young donkey. Babies, I had a student once who lived on a farm, grew up on a farm. So she told me a little bit about what it was like growing up. It was a milk farm, and no, it wasn't. It was a produce farm. Sorry, produce farm. And her father, one time, they had a few animals. At one time, bought a cow gave birth, and the calf became their pet. Right, and cows are expensive things to raise on a farm. They eat a lot of food, drink a lot of water. They're not easy. So and they weren't using it to. They didn't. That's not what their farm business was. So Dad took the calf when it got big enough and had it shechted, right? The farm. And it was a very poor farm. They didn't have a lot. They were fine, but the meat was expensive. And one time for dinner, they're eating meat, right? So all the kids said, where's I forget the calf's name, right? Where's Billy or whatever his name was, right? And Mum didn't know what to say. And the penny dropped and they realized they're eating him or her, right? And the kids refused to eat it. You can't eat your pets. Right? If you go buy chicken from the market, you can't do it. It's like, oh look, there's Harry, there's Charlie, there's Matilda. You just can't do it, right? It's like it's in a package. It's plastic. It's not real. It's not a living thing. So that's how you identify them. It makes it easier. So here you are. The donkey gave birth. Cute, and Dad doesn't want to give up one of the sheep. Doesn't want to get. So one of the reasons the rabbi says why you have to break the donkey's neck is because you're depriving the Kohen of a sheep. You're supposed to give him a sheep for this. So because you're depriving him of his sustenance, you have to kill the donkey because it's going to deprive you of what you need.
Mhm.
thing that helps you. Right? That's one of the reasons. But it doesn't really explain why this strange experience of redeeming a donkey. It's the only trait animal that we have such a concept with. Then why do you want us to give more sheep to the Cohen? You could just say, give more sheep. Redeem it with 1.5 sheep or 2 sheep or whatever it happens to be. But why do they have to create this ruse with the donkey?
I guess that's something to do with parenting, right? Like you have to
Has
create.
to do with parenting, right?
You have to create the conditions to cause curiosity. It's something that a lot of people do with unschooling. Like they'll put a book that they want their kids to be interested in, like lying around, or they'll read it or whatever. And in this way, the kid will be like, "What's that?"
Right. You see, the rule of existence is you can't convince anybody of anything unless they want to listen. If they don't want it, you're not going to get anywhere. You're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When Yaakov was sending gifts to Esau, he made him ask the question. He told the Malachim who was presenting the gifts to make a distance between one and the next. And he instructs each one, when you see Esau, and he asks you, what is all this entourage with you? Then you'll explain it to him. Don't just walk up to him, knock on the door, and say, here, like Amazon, here, a present from your brother. Right? That's not how to do it. You have to go up to him, get near to him, meet him, and just chew the cud. How you doing? Nice Maserati, right? Right? Whatever happens to be, right? And then finally he's going to say, "What's with all the camels and the goats and the thing?" I said, "Oh, funny you should ask. You have to you have to instruct them. Make sure that they ask. They have to ask. If
What happens if they don't ask?
they don't ask, then it's not going to be helpful.
Right. Okay.
So you have to be open. So getting your kids on the Pesach night, we have a custom, a very important custom, to do things. The Haggada actually spells it out based on the Gemara, that we do things to get the children to ask. And everybody asks, but what do you do with those things? You get the children, you remove one of the Seder plates. So the Haggada says, why do you remove the Seder? So the children will ask, why do you remove the Seder plate? So what's the answer? The Haggada says to remove the Seder plate. So you'll ask the question. So what kind of circular logic is that? Where does the Haggada learn it from?
Here.
From the donkey. Right? You see, right after this, your son will ask, right? And you don't answer him about the donkey. It doesn't say, tell him, explain the donkey to him. But once
go beyond that.
It goes beyond that. Once he's already asking, now you can talk to him. But if he's not asking,
he's got a captive audience with his question.
right. Now, the rest of before this, we had 3 other techniques that don't require asking. But this is the most effective. Right? Haggada comes from this week's Parsha. Right? The Haggada, you should talk to your child. Right? Tell your child. That's where the word Haggada comes from. Right? Follow?
Mm-hmm.
Now, where does the word Haggada come from? There are 4 techniques. There's Haggadata, you should tell. Right? It should be when your son speaks, it doesn't say asks, speaks. And I forget the third one. Escapes me, sorry. But one of them is the Haggadata. You should tell your child. That's the word where the Haggada comes from. The word Haggada. Right? What does Haggada mean? Oh, to seper, right? Sipor, right? Sipor is the first one, right at the beginning of the parsha.
Oh, it's not lehagid, to tell?
That's the either the second one or the third one.
Okay.
Did my note, but I'm traveling today, so I'm still away. So, but if you look in chapter 10, verse 2, to seper, you should tell. Seper comes from the word sefer or a story. You tell them a story.
Oh yeah.
Right? Oh, so now I've got the four ones, right?
To seper,
The
yeah.
Haggada thing you should tell, you should lahagid. And the other one is when your child says, but doesn't ask a question, but he's talking. It's not a question. You can get your child to dialogue with you. Whenever your children want to talk to you, you make yourself available. Right? But what is Haggada? It comes from the word God. What's God? Who was God?
You mean like one of the tribes?
One of the tribes. Right? What does it mean, God? What does God mean?
I thought lahagid is to tell.
It's to tell, but it comes from the word God. It's the
Who's
name
was
of one of the tribes. The fifth the fifth son of Leah.
I don't know. Let's see.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, time's up.
What was the question again?
What does God mean? And his name, you know names in God. What does it mean? No, any idea?
I agree with Zita Lahagid.
Right, right. That's what the derivative. The word God means good mazel tov.
Oh, I finally found it. Good luck has come.
Right. Very good. You see it?
Yeah.
Right? It's good luck. In other words, when you're talking to your children, you have to tell them how fortunate they are, how lucky they are. It's a great opportunity, I want to tell you. A good thing. You make it enticing. They lucked out. So they're learning Torah.
That's the answer to their first question?
No, that's if they don't ask the question.
Those who don't ask.
Yeah. The best is if you get them to ask the question.
But what does that mean, luck? Because we don't believe in luck, right? We believe more like in mazel, which is like an opening of blessings coming down.
Yes, but it was you weren't expecting. You weren't.
Oh, so something positive you weren't expecting that came. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Because it's a little different from Asher, which is like fortunate. Okay.
Right. Okay, so now back to our
Rabbi,
yes.
sorry to interrupt. What about the beginning and the end? It looks like
we've already done those, sweetie. Remember last year? We just have to go back to the videos.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. I think we did both, didn't we? Last year.
We did. There's a good question because this week is an easy one. So you're throwing me a softball here, Phil. Because this one is easy because the Parsha begins with how to talk to your children and it ends with that. So it's all about how to educate your children. Right, so that was an easy one.
In the middle is also about it.
Right, that's the rule. Anything that begins and ends on the same thing is chazal. It's a Gemara. Anything that begins and ends on the same thing, everything in the middle, right? It's like a sausage. The end is the sausage, and the beginning is the sausage. That means the middle is the sausage too.
So you can get a lot of lessons about chinuch from the middle.
That's right. It's all about chinuch. That's exactly right. Very good. Right. Okay, we are chapter now. Going back from our line through the Torah, we digressed a lot here. Chapter 2, verse 8. Chapter 2, verse 8. Yatah Hashem Elokim Gam Ba'Eden. You see that? And God planted a garden in Eden, in the east. Yisam Sham Et Ha'adam Asher Yitzah. And he put the man there that he had formed. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
It's a fascinating thing. Mind-boggling. This is mind-boggling concepts in the Torah. Well, this is not exactly in the Torah. Well, it is, but in its reverse. The Israelis, when they established the state in 1948, they looked not to the Torah, but they looked to America. That's been a constant theme in the founding of the country, that we should be like America or the Western world. And America has a constitution, so they thought they'd write a constitution, right? And you read the Israeli constitution, and it's just a lie. It's crazy how they get it wrong. Because one of the things they say is that, I forget exactly the language of it, but one of the things they say is we're returning to the country where we were formed, right?
Which country is that? Not the USA.
No, Israel.
Oh, what do you mean,
Right.
country which they were formed?
Right. We are people. This is our original homeland. This is the place where we became a people. This is our. I forget exactly the language, and we're returning to our original, the country where we became a people, right? Which is totally not true, because we became a people in it,
Right.
right? Now, I don't know if this is the reason for that, but one of the pluses of being a people that were created not in their homeland, which is a fascinating thing that only applies to the Jews. There is no other people that became a people outside of their home, outside of their country. Right? It's an absurd idea. If you look in the dictionary under the word nation, now it's more true in the old dictionary. If you go back and you find an old dictionary, you'll see it. But the new ones, they sort of fiddle a little bit. You won't always see it. But if you go in the old dictionaries, they all say this. They say the definition of a nation is a people with a common land, right? A common language, right? America, the common land, right? Common language, right? And a common history. You got an old dictionary there? Can't see it on there. It's a little blurry. Which one's this one? Well, a Webster's. Okay, how old is that? Oh, it's new. Okay, we'll look it up. It might say. All right, nation. Visual aid here. Experiments in front of your eyes.
It's from 1981.
It's not old enough. Okay, but go ahead. Go on. You'll see.
A nation. Okay, is a community of people composed of one or more nationalities,
okay,
possessing a more or less defined territory and government.
like common land. Okay, keep going.
Let's see.
common language, right, and a common history or culture. Common government also works, but not always. Like, for instance, you have Europe. They don't have common. I mean, it's not really. There's not a nation called European. They are called Europeans, but you can have peoples with different governments of the same nation, like the Arabs, for instance. They identify as Arabs, but they have countries that have different governments. That's it. That's all it says.
It had a lot of different definitions, but it was
Right.
too wordy. Too wordy.
Oh, so you should keep reading all the way through. So it says, right? It'll say common language, common culture, right? Well, common history. Those are the kind of things it's going to say, right? The old dictionaries will say this, except the Jews.
No way.
Totally right.
Wow. That's so interesting. Now I want to get an old one just to see that.
Yeah, you can do a search online. You find an old dictionary, look it up, right? Right? Except the Jews, right? Because we are a nation, we do not have a common language, we do not have a common land, and we do not have a common culture.
Right.
Right? You're originally from Azerbaijan,
Correct.
right? So when you were in Azerbaijan, you weren't speaking English,
Nope.
right? You hadn't had the same history as a Jew from Poland, definitely from Morocco, for 2,000 years, right?
But you could probably say we had like a similar type of experiences.
Yeah, right. But you had more of a similar type of experience to someone who lived in Russia than you did to someone who lived in Italy,
Right.
right? You follow? Who were called Jews. So you see, because the definition of nation is really not a true definition. Because when you say a nation is a group of people with a common land, right? Just because we live on the same dirt doesn't make us the same.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say it's a people with a common land, what you're saying is, right, what defines us is what we're not. We're not French, right? What we have in common is that we don't speak French. We don't have anything in common, right? In other words, if we got rid of that, John Lennon's famous song, Imagine, if you got rid of all the countries, right, and we just spoke different languages, right, so we don't have a common land. I mean, except for the fact we live in this particular place, with other people live in this particular place, but we have nothing in common except that we don't live in France. That doesn't create a unity, a uniformity, a connection. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So when a place is called a nation, it creates uniformity.
It doesn't create uniformity, just calling it a nation. This is why the Western world is falling apart. Because in the good old days, not that long ago, England was England because they hated the French. So it made England more England. You knew who they were. When you know who you are, you're more willing to pay taxes. I know that. I mean, there's a huge problem in England of people who can afford it are leaving the country. The same thing with Maryland. Maryland has high taxes. It's a huge amount. I mean, I'm in Florida at the moment. It's filled to the brim, almost. I mean, with alligators and people from other states. So they lived, let's say, in Virginia for 5 generations. They have no loyalty to Virginia because they're only Virginian as long as they're not, Californian or North Carolina. Right? It doesn't create a connection or loyalty to your location just because you're not something.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you're not means, the less it means anything, the more the less loyalty you have to any particular place. So as we're achieving this greater levels of peace and unity and throughout the world, there's a greater identity with people all over the world because of social media and other influence, other causes like that. We're all watching the same news. We're reading the same books. We're watching the same movies. We're eating the same kinds of foods. There's such a mix of multiculturalism that's going on that we've lost any pride, connection to our home country. Right? It creates a big problem for the country, for all the people who live there, because people don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to get from the military. They don't want to put up with the whatever they have to put up with. Right? Now, this isn't such a problem for America. It is a problem for everybody else because the American culture is so dominant. So everyone wants to be American, and it creates all kinds of problems. But anyway, getting back. So the only people who are connection to, despite their land, despite their culture, despite their lack of common culture, despite their lack of common history, are Jews. Because we are a nation, and it doesn't matter where we live, we're still Jews.
Mm-hmm.
But so the creators of the dictionary realized that the Jews behave like a nation without a common land. So they had to call us a nation. We're the only ones like that. Because you take a French person, you put them in America, and after one generation, 2 generations, they don't identify as French anymore. Right? Like in the same way, like I know somebody who's second generation Israeli, and they signed up for the IDF. There's no second generation Italian that's gonna fight this Italian army. There's no one from Somalia going back to fight for the Somalian army.
They might have to soon.
They might have to soon. That's true. So anyway, getting back, how do we get onto this? So what's the advantage? So the advantage of being created in Mitzrayim, in becoming a nation not in our homeland, is we can survive not in our homeland.
Oh, because that's where our roots came from.
That's our DNA, right? If it wasn't for that, we might not be able to make it if we weren't living in Israel.
Oh, so then this answers Abraham's question when Abraham said to Hashem, how do I know that my children will follow you? Because I don't have any guarantee. He says, so they should know that they're going to be strangers in a strange land, and that's where they're going to be forged into a nation. Oh, interesting.
Very good. Very good. So, now let's get back down to verse 8. So God planted a garden in Eden and placed man there. So we weren't created in Eden. Human beings were not made in Eden. We can go there, but we're not created in there. If we were created in Eden, if human beings were created, we couldn't leave.
Right. There's a something, I think I read in the Nesiva Shalom, that Hashem took earth from all the different corners of the earth in order to form Adam's body, so that regardless of where he was, the earth would receive him back.
Right. That's a chazal, like the midrash that says that, right? Exactly. But in the pasuk itself, it makes it clear that Adam's not born in that Eden. If you're reading in English, you lose it because the word Eden actually means something in Hebrew. The big reveal. What does Eden mean?
Aid means a witness.
Right. It doesn't mean that.
Edan is not yet, maybe? No.
What's that?
Adayan, maybe? Is it comes from the word Adayan? No.
No.
Gan Eden. But there's not, it's talking about a garden called
Right,
Eden.
right, right,
What does
right.
that mean?
Ada means pleasure.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
It's pretty good, right? That's why we say the next world is an experience of Garden Eden, right? So this is support for whether the Mesilas Yesharim brings down that God man was created for one reason and one reason only, for pleasure. That's what we were created for. We were created to live in the Garden of Eden. We weren't created in the Garden of Eden, but we were. That was our purpose. That's where we were supposed to be.
So the more we enjoy Shabbat, the more we have an experience or a sense of what that pleasure is.
Right. So that's what Shabbat me'ein olam haba, the taste of olam haba. Right. That's what our job is in this world.
Interesting.
Right. But now what you're bringing up is a very important point. Is that all human beings? See, all human beings is different than animals. An animal is fine whatever it has. However you raise an animal, it's perfectly fine if that's how it's being raised. But not a human being. For some reason, no matter how good it gets for humanity, so this is the difference between the whole Western world philosophy and psychology relative to the Jewish philosophy. In the non-Jewish world, if life got a little bit better, everybody would be happy or should be happy. As pointed out numerous times, you went to the biggest philosophers in the world prior to, say, 100, maybe 200 years ago, throughout history, and asked them what would have to be for human beings to reach nirvana, to be perfectly content and happy with everything, right? And communists, the new guys, Mamdani and all these guys, they all say the same silliness, which is, but 200 years ago, it would have been very simple, right? Give them a constant source of healthy food, right? Freedom from war, pestilence, right? And shelter, warmth, warmth. They wouldn't have mentioned AC, right? Today, you know, not to be diminutive of it. It's no small thing to not have AC, especially if you live in Florida, right? But no one had AC 100 years ago, even if you're living in Florida, right? So how did you manage? It didn't bother you because you didn't know there was such a thing. But now it's just impossible. I never saw AC growing up in England. True, it's England, right? But in the summers, it can get brutal. The British summer can be pretty brutal. Now, it's not as bad as Florida, but I never heard of AC. I mean, I heard of it, I shouldn't say that, but I never experienced it. Right? There just wasn't such a thing. I don't think any of the hotels had AC. It just wasn't there. Right? When I came to Israel, it was fine for me. My American friends, it was tough for them because they grew up with AC. But again, you ask the biggest philosophers, right? It would be those 4 or 5 things, right? Except we got those 4 or 5 things today, and we're not happy because we're not trying to get to where we have 3 meals a day and a roof overhead. We're trying to get back to Gan Eden because that's where we were. We all experienced it. In other words, once you try good food, you can't go back. It's like coffee. Once you try good coffee, you can't go back to instant. Believe me, I've tried it. I've done it. You just can't go back, right? So it's the same. It's the same thing, right? Once you try Gan Eden, you can't go back. So now, what was Adam's experience when he left Gan Eden, or was forced out of Gan Eden? Where did he want to go?
Back to
Back.
Eden.
That was it. How can you like after you've experienced whatever Gan Eden is, right? Whatever we all understand that there must be such a thing as the ultimate pleasure. The more people identify something as a pleasure, whether it's real or fake, nevertheless it becomes impossible to resist. You can't resist ultimate pleasure. You just can't resist it. If you really think it's a pleasure, you can't stop. Right? You're not going to win by willpower. There's no such thing. You just have to win by realizing it's not a real pleasure, not real pleasure, it won't make you happy, right? Or you grow out of it. Like when you're 5 years old, a jelly bean was it. Right? But not now. You can resist because you've grown out of it. Right? So when Adam experienced Gan Eden, which is everything, when he left, it must have been a downer like crazy. The Talmud says that he fasted for 130 years.
Fasted? He didn't eat food, or he just drank, or he would just fasted from morning to night.
I don't know. I don't think it was. It must have been morning to night, but I don't know. It
Okay.
just says that. Right? Whatever it was, it's a big deal, right? 130 years. That's a big deal, right? Why did he fast 100? Because how can you eat after you've lost everything? Whereas you take the biggest billionaire, don't have to be the biggest billionaire. You take someone who grew up, grow up is not as bad, but you take somebody who made a billion, right? Made himself a billion. He grew up in poverty, made a billion, lived like that for 10 years, and he loses everything. It's devastating. The halakha is you have to give him tzedakah, not the like they can eat, right, and have air conditioning, so he can live like he did as a billionaire,
Wow.
right? In other words, when you give someone tzedakah, it's not they can live like you. You're giving them tzedakah, or you're giving them tzedakah so they can live like they're accustomed to.
Well, we can't afford a billionaire.
Okay, but then you've got to prioritize it. And then if you're a billionaire, you can do something like that. But you have to prioritize triage. You haven't got money for every poor person that comes by, so you have to go. Right, but nevertheless, there is a responsibility, a mitzvah, to give him tzedakah, to live the way that he was supposed to live. Right? That is a responsibility because for him it's devastating. Or her, devastating. So that's money. That's money, which is, after all, is not such a big deal. Doesn't make, as I like to say, the marginal difference that great wealth brings. There's very few things that Warren Buffett can do that you can't do. And none of them are worth it. Right? He can go to the Caribbean on a private jet, and you've got to take commercial. Right? There is a difference. It's nice to fly on a private jet. It's great. Right? He can have a house in the south of France, but you can go visit too. His house can be nicer than your house or my house, right? But it's true. Right? But these are all marginal differences. We all eat 3 meals a day. And this is a point that, by the way, Warren Buffett makes. Like we sleep on a bed, right? We wear shoes. In today's world, right, if you have a big screen TV, this is not much different. You can't, there's not a lot in it, right? So the marginal difference, great, well, this is not how it used to be. The difference between the very wealthy, say 300 years ago and throughout history, and everybody else was massive. Today, it's not such a great gap. This is a problem because people aren't as motivated because it's not such a great gap, right? Whatever car you're driving, a Bentley isn't worth working like a dog to get a Bentley. The difference between your car and a Bentley is not worth it.
But isn't that a good thing? Because then maybe instead of pursuing more physical whatever, you're pursuing hopefully.
That's absolutely true. That's the point. That's exactly the point. Right? The marginal difference that great wealth brings anyone is incredibly marginal. right? The real gains are going to be, as I like to say, right? If you want to know how wealthy you are, count up all the things you have that money can't buy. Right? That's how wealthy you are. So here, so here, Adam experienced the greatest things of life. We don't even know what it is. Once you've experienced those things, it's okay. Someone who lost, and just giving you a parable, it's a parallel. Somebody has great wealth and then loses all his money. It's devastating. But that's just, and it doesn't make such a difference. But here he experienced Gan Eden, which is a difference, right? And he went to the regular well. He was living in Baltimore, right?
It's like being in the light and then being in the darkness.
Yeah, 100%, right? It's devastating. That's why he fasted for 130 years. It's like, oh my goodness, how can I go on? Nothing's going to bring him peace. Nothing's going to give him satisfaction. There's nothing. It's like you're going to the fanciest restaurant in the world, right? And now you're eating, McDonald's. It's like, what? Well, I can give you a double if you want. There's no double that's going to count. That's going to equal what you just ate. It doesn't count. It just doesn't cut it. It can't bring you anything. If whatever it is you like in life, right? Let's just say coffee or wine, and you got yourself accustomed to the best of the best, right? And it's not available. Anything else, you might drink it, but it isn't going to cut it. It's never going to be the same. If you never experienced it, it's true. It won't bother you. But now that you've experienced it and you enjoy it, right? Here he is in the Garden of Eden. And he's got everything. Right? And now he's out. So what did he tell his children?
What could he tell them? Like, how could he describe something that they've never experienced and they don't have a language for?
That's true. But in everything he's doing and everything he's experiencing and everything he's portraying and everything that he's giving over to them, he's telling them one day we're going to go back. You're going to miss it. Oh, the good, it's sort of like if your parents come from Azerbaijan and they talk about the good old days of Azerbaijan, right? Right? Did you have that growing up?
I mean, the only thing great about it was that the produce and the food was actually good and healthy and actually tasted good. Like a tomato tasted like a tomato.
Right. Okay, that's very good. But you see, when your parents talk about it, you don't experience a tomato, but you get it's a remnant of it. It gives you something. I can't put in words what it gives you, but you know there's something there.
There's this like healthy type of living that was maybe physically hard, but much more simple and less complicated and less crazy.
Right, whatever it is. But you see, your parents were able to pass that on to you. Right?
Yeah.
You could tell them the way they reminisce about it and everything, right? But that's Azerbaijan. If you went from America to Azerbaijan, it would be a different story. I remember AC, and you tell your children, what's AC? Oh, AC, it's like, when it's when it's 103 in the shade, you go in the room and you can sit comfortably and you go, really? Wow, I wonder what that's like. It's just, so you can't, but the way you reminisce about it. Israelis do this, by the way. Right? Israelis are the only Jews who miss their homeland.
Yeah.
Right? And they always talk about going back. You never met a Polish Jew who says, I miss Warsaw. You never met no such thing. Right? Like I'm from England originally, and I miss parts of England, but I'm not going back.
And so you don't actually talk to your kids about it in a nostalgic way either?
A little bit. Like I tell them, when they were growing up, I said, well, you study as a joke, but when you studied You studied history. When I was in school, we called that current events. Right? So there are things I can make fun of certain American pieces of American culture and things like that. And there are parts of England that were when I was growing up were meaningful. We just don't have we just don't have in today's world. We all had that, right? Like when you grew up in a world that the house only had one telephone, it was nailed to the kitchen wall
Yeah,
without voicemail or recording, right? If I
I
and
remember those days.
remember those days, right? If I there was
You got
something
the, you got one dial
right,
wrong, you
right,
have to start
right,
all over
all
again.
over again, right? If I and the guy didn't pick up, that was it. I tried reaching you yesterday. Yeah, I was playing golf. What do you mean you're playing golf? Didn't you take your phone with you? How can you take your phone with you? The president of the United States might have had a phone that he could take with him, but no one else had such a thing. Right? Even very wealthy people didn't have such a thing. There's a part of that that was very nice. We all fine. We all knew where everything was. That one, it was fine. You can't go back to it, but there's a part of it that we missed.
There are a few people that like try to live that lifestyle where they buy like everything from way back when and they try to live like a much simpler lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah. Because why? Because of this point,
Yeah.
right? You follow? So you pass on. So Adam passed on to his children chocolate cake. Are you kidding me? Right? I had I had angels feeding me grapes. Right? And the grapes were like watermelons. And you could squeeze a grape and it would last you a day. You would talk about it. If I missed it, and it's like, if I, and however he and everything he did and everything he lived, he passed on to his children. There's more to life than this, and we are the inheritors of that. Of the whole of humanity are the inheritors. So they think, what's the more? Yeah, they lost the tradition, the Gan Eden, but they kept the longing. What's
Uh,
the more? Oh, Marxism, socialism, communism, right?
mhm.
All these different silly ideas that they come out with because they know there's something more, but they don't know what it is. And they don't have a tradition. And they don't ask the Jews.
So is that why Cain decided to give a korban because he got this sense from his father about a connection with Hashem and he was create that, but he didn't do it with the best of his crop?
We
Like,
can say the same thing about Abel, right?
yeah,
Um,
but I thought Havel only like did that because he saw his brother do it. He's like, oh, that's such a good idea. Dad's been talking about how like the connection with Hashem was so strong and etc. etc. Like that's what I started thinking when you were explaining that. Because I always wondered, like, how did Cain even get this idea of presenting a korban? Like, where did it come from?
right, right. It's possible. I mean, I'm not discounting that. That's an interesting idea. Um, um, we'll I mean, definitely, I don't have the exact pasuk verses that say that was what was going on, but it's all part of our need, our humans' awareness that this isn't all there is. It pervades everything, and we're not animals. Animals, they're fine with what they have, and the human being knows there's more to this, and that's how we get into tremendous trouble. Because if it wasn't for this, communism would not have a shot. This is fine how we are. We're living in a hovel. For what? If I if there's intuitive understanding deep in our bones that there's more to life than this. It's part of the DNA, it's part of the landscape of education. It's passed on each generation.
So that's what they take advantage of,
That's
like
what they take advantage of, exactly.
that desire that we
Right.
all kind of have because it was passed down,
Right,
and they manipulate it for commercialism or whatever.
right. Because it's very difficult to make things better
Right.
if you don't have an experience of the better. In other words, you might like beer, you might like coffee, but you don't have the understanding to how to make coffee better than it is, better than we've experienced. You can play around with all different kinds of things, and something might click and something might work, but you can't map it out. You just have to try different things. You just can't imagine how things could get better than this. And therefore, we do stupid things because invariably, when we try and make things better, because we don't understand it, we make it worse.
Huh.
Right?
Is that the reason why like Shabbos has to be experienced? You can't just go by the rules and what you have to do, whatever. Like it really has
Right.
to be experienced. Otherwise, you don't have a sense of what it really is. Because
Exactly.
it's really something spiritual, and you have to experience something spiritual. You can't talk about something spiritual
But
alone.
it's a better way of living. But you can't. You could tell someone else about the experience of Shabbat, and as long as you don't tell him the details of Shabbat, he can't recreate it. He'll try and do all kinds of things, but unless you give him the instructions of how to do it, that's what Rav Noach said. He said the gap between a Jew and a non-Jew is greater than the gap between us and a Tana, us and Rabbi Akiva. Right? You follow? The non-Jew has to travel a greater distance in Ruchnius than you would have to travel to be a Rabbi Akiva. It's not so difficult. It's not so distant. A non-Jew goes from Ein Chelek Olam Haba to a Chelek Olam Haba. He's a Ben Olam Haba, right? To go from a small Olam Haba to a big Olam Haba is not as big a jump. So
That makes sense.
So you used to ask, so how come we have lots of converts and we don't have any Rabbi Akivas, as far as I know? Right? So he said, because we teach non-Jews how to get there. They have an example. They see us, and we can tell them the next step, but they would never get there. This is what you find if you find any groups who follow the Bible, but don't listen to the rabbis. They do the weirdest stuff because you can't take this stuff and these ideas, these truths, these mitzvahs, and do them unless you have someone who guides you along the way, each micro step along the way. You don't know how to make life better. Sounds simple. You think it's easy, right? You look at the Western world, for instance, is a good example, right? It's taken them thousands of years to get where they are now. And it's only because of immense trial and error that's painful to the extreme. Right? And they would be nowhere if it wasn't for America, which America itself is a miracle. It did not form by accident. The Almighty wanted America because they were not going to make it. They were not going to create a society. Europe wasn't going to create a society, a civilization that was more elevated. Europe prior to 1776 was a very corrupt. You think it's corrupt now? It was crazy corrupt. Right? It was. I don't know if we got an example in today's world of how bad Europe was, but if you look at the literature, it describes the lifestyle of the average person living in Europe. It was not fun. It was miserable.
Yeah, the aristocrats were the only ones that had any.
Right, and they did not
any
live a
luck.
great. They weren't living the life. It was not. They were not. This was not. It's not all Jane Austen. That's
Right.
not how it was. Right? I think who was it Dickens who talked about what life was really like? I forget who was doing
Yeah,
it.
no, I think that's right. Dickens has a lot of
Dickens,
stories
yeah.
where it's like very
Yeah.
brutal, the living
Yeah. Right,
conditions.
it's very brutal, right? Very good. Okay, thanks everybody. We went out way over here, digressed a lot.
We always enjoy. Sorry, we also created some of the digressions.
Yeah, it's good. It's all part of the fun.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. We really enjoyed it.
Have a lovely Shabbat.
Rabbi,
Shabbat Shalom.